Balcones' first ever year-round bourbon was an inspiration. It all had to work together. A blend of carefully selected ingredients, Texas-sized pot stills, and creative people determined to find the absolute best way to usher a new whiskey along. When you discover how it pairs with a meaningful moment, suddenly the feeling of drinking great whiskey becomes a whole lot more.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Whiskey Neat. Spirited conversations with interesting people. I am your host, Kristopher Hart. Now you can't see what's in these glasses. It's at the end of the episode. I was going through my bunker, as we like to say in this hobby, and I found a bottle of Amrut Porta Nova, which is port cask, fantastic, and then some Blackadder raw cask, unfiltered. Scotland single malt, and I'm going nuts here. So this week, as always, we are sponsored by Glass Reb Imports and Amrut Distilleries. Amrut crafts one of the most award-winning Indian single malts to the exact same standards of Scotch. Amrut Fusion has received a double gold blind and scored a jaw-dropping 96 points by the judges at the Proof Awards. Amrut Single Malt Whisky is widely available across America and can be found almost everywhere in Texas. Go out and get a bottle today. I just want to say a quick thank you to Mark Norman. Check out his channel on YouTube, Mark Norman. He shared last week's episode, and things have gone over swimmingly well. And we've got lots of great guests planned up over the next few weeks. Things are really weird because Texas is back into a lockdown, so that's hard to line things up when everyone is scared. So, rightly scared. Not a political comment. So this week I sit down with Darryl Bowman. Darryl Bowman has endeavored over the last couple of years to roll out an app called Cork'd, Cork'd. It's now live. It's now out there. Check it out on the Apple Store as well as Google Play. And I sit down with Brandon Strage, frequent guest of the show, good guy. I don't think he knows this, but he's someone I think is actually quite adept at tasting whiskey. So we had a brand out of Colorado named Deer Hammer who sent us some samples, and I thought we would taste through their product here in Houston and give honest feedback. Honest feedback, please take it for what you will, whatever weight you put into our opinion, but it is honest feedback. So, we'll see how it goes. But I want to thank Brandon for doing the show again, and of course Darryl Bowman, good friends, great whiskey tasters, and real honest people. So, without further ado, Darryl Bowman and Brandon Strage. Cheers. Hey, Darryl, thanks so much for coming back.
What's up, man?
You were here just a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I know we talked a little bit about Cork'd. I think we got caught up into some other things at the time. I forget what it was. Was Sean Beck?
No, it was Jeremiah.
Jeremiah Butler.
Yeah,
we got caught up into my rums and talking about coronavirus. Everyone else is sick of it. Speaking of coronavirus, Brandon, last time you were on, we got to talk quite a bit about the current state of Houston.
Yeah, that's the episode I like to refer to as white privilege incarnate. That was watching that episode back was that was really bad.
Well, speaking of which, I actually got so sick and tired of some of the hatred on Facebook that last week I wrote out a whole dialogue, put it up on the teleprompter, gave my peace of mind to the current state of Facebook in 3 minutes, and then decided just to cut it out. So that video will never make the light of day. I got some feedback that it will be very polarizing. And they're like, I don't know if you want to use your platform for your political views. I'm like, it's not my political views. It's just the current state of everyone willing to burn the house down. And I posted today, Mark Norman told me that Louis C.K. was starting a podcast. I just posted on Facebook, Louis C.K. started a podcast, ... Not an endorsement. It's news. It's, what if I hate Louis C.K.? What if I'm like, this is going to be good, right? Can't wait to hear what he has to say. And 3 women blocked me.
Well, yeah, he showed his wiener to somebody.
Well, first of all, I'm not defending
How
him.
did
No, you
how
are.
did know they
You
blocked
are.
you?
There's an app that tells you when someone
okay.
unfriends or blocks you.
And why would you want to know that?
In case something I said came off the wrong way.
Okay.
Like, hey, Louis C.K. has a
Which
podcast.
clearly was that, right?
Yeah. So they read that and perceived that as me endorsing Louis C.K. in a podcast.
Well, of course it is.
Do you think it's an implied endorsement? Like, if you did you share it without comment, or did you?
No comment.
There was
I
no
just said
comment on
Louis
it?
C.K. started a podcast. Like, this is newsworthy.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeffrey Epstein killed himself.
Right.
Hey, am I endorsing Jeffrey Epstein?
Absolutely.
No.
Yes.
If I
But you're lying.
posted that, hey, Derek Chauvin got off, like first person of my friends list to post, Derek Chauvin just got let go on bail. Would that be an endorsement of his innocence?
Absolutely, for 100%. That's the
So-
world we live in, man. People have no...
Everything.
Yeah.
It's just interesting because I recorded that. I recorded.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
intro,
You sat there,
and so I
sat
sat
there
there
crying
for-
tears of
and-
joy,
and
agreeing with me every step of the way.
And what you were trying to say, I think, was just, in a roundabout way, it was just think before you post on Facebook.
That's 100%.
Literally all I got out of that was just think before you post. Be super judicious about what you post and how you post it and the tone in which you use to post it, because we're all on edge right now. We all feel a lot of pressure. And I think that's a message that we can all get behind. But it's just interesting that everything is so politicized now that having an opinion about anything lands you on one end of the spectrum or the other. And not having an opinion lands you on one end of the spectrum or the other.
That's my biggest problem.
Yeah.
I got roasted for saying, I haven't said much about everything, and I'm not going to. And you would have thought that I just dropped my pants in front of a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, people went nuts. And
No Delia jokes.
Yeah,
No, and
no, yeah.
oh, I can't make those jokes.
No. Go ahead.
He was being funny.
I was saying that I'm
Yeah.
fighting the urge.
Yeah.
I'm fighting the urge. It would have been real funny if you would have thought I randomly asked a bunch of women if I could, like it's like a very specific instance,
Yeah.
But people are. That's the thing, is you can't offer an opinion. You can't offer even an innocent state. Like there was, what's that big muscle bound guy, Terry Crews?
Oh, yeah.
Terry Crews just said, like, hey, regardless of what color you are, I love you. Let's be sure that we focus that this is Black Lives Matter, not Black Lives Better, meaning a superiority thing. Like, I don't know if you've seen the reports.
Yes.
And by the way, I'm not commenting on any of this. I'm just
Yes, it is. You're
I'm
saying
just
that...
telling you what he did. There's been reports of people like videotapes on YouTube, 1995, forcing white people to kiss the feet of black people. Like this guy was like, kiss my feet for Black Lives Matter, and some people are doing it, and it's kind of blowing people's minds. And Terry Crews was just like, hey, I'm just saying, let's keep in mind that this is about equality and bringing us up, not bringing us over. And the overwhelming vitriol, and I use that word a lot lately, and hateful rhetoric, use that word a lot lately, towards Terry Crews as being what a stupid thing for him to say. I'm like, what did he say? He just said, love each other. Like,
I wish they would say it to his face and watch him just beat the ever-loving
I don't think
mess.
he would. He strikes me as a giant teddy bear.
I know, but I wish he would.
I'm not.
especially considering the things that he's has said about what has been done to him, and he didn't do anything. So he really is a kind-hearted guy,
Yeah.
because he would
He
have
is.
had the ability to literally kill someone.
Absolutely.
and where
And
they
didn't.
stood and didn't. Yeah. So.
For those who don't know what Brandon's referring to, during the Me Too movement a couple years ago, it was found out that Terry Crews was quite literally manhandled in some grabbing and groping.
Like some short agent, yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Sounds.
Well, he runs with the Sandler crowd, and I feel like that's like a relatively like good people crowd, not just like a bunch of like terrible individuals.
Yeah, I doubt Adam Sandler was the one groping him, but.
If you're cool, you got to call him the Sandman.
Oh yeah.
That's if you know, you know. Is it that there's just so much vitriol going around, or is it just that we go looking for it on social media because it's there? Because when you don't go onto Twitter and you just have conversations with
It's
people
not that
around
bad, yeah.
you don't really like. I've never gotten into a conversation that degenerated into like name calling and things like that. Whereas it's really easy to go find that conversation online. So I just wonder how much of that is like we continue to look in the wrong place for elevated dialogue on these topics.
I don't have an answer. I understand where the anger's coming from. I understand where the the feeling of especially, it's one thing to be a victim of these things. It's also another thing to be to witness it and not be able to do anything about it.
Yeah.
So I understand where those people come from, where they're trying to be a good ally, they're trying to be supportive. I don't have answers to all this stuff.
No,
and
I don't either. And I'm definitely not saying that people shouldn't be, standing up and taking note and speaking out against what's going on, because there's clearly a problem. What I mean is, where these conversations dovetail off to these dark places with really, just red hot anger. It's just interesting.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate part of the current environment, and I don't think anyone has a solution. And I will say this, that it is my opinion, and this is the only opinion I'll give, is that I feel like the current state of things is impossible for us to progress forward to a more to a solution. I don't think the way things are going, this is how we solve things. That's all I'm saying. I think that eventually this will consume us to a point that it becomes violent. Even I don't know. It's just not the way to proceed forward. And this is not even why we're here. I'll just say this.
This has been a fun opening.
Yeah. So, well, there'll be an actual opening that kind of sets this up, but it's unfortunate. So there's a distillery that listens to the show. I've been following them on Instagram for some time. It's a company called Deerhammer. They sent me some samples, and you just launched officially your app, Cork'd, CORK''D. And I thought it would be great if we tasted through some of the samples Deerhammer sent us. They've not been opened. I've never had them before. We're going to give honest but constructive feedback. If it's great, it's great. If it's not great, we'll say so. I know that the craft beer scene tends to be a bit, I won't say easier, but they seem to have figured it out a little bit easier than the craft distillery or whiskey scene. Craft whiskey has always been kind of like solving a Rubik's Cube from the start. And let's talk about Cork'd. Let's have some drinks and solve the world's problems.
Hell yeah.
Sweet. So the first thing, I was trying to figure out the best way to go in the order of this. I don't know that I want to do this one until last. That's the hickory smoked whiskey. But they sent me, let's see here, American Single Malt Whisky. This is 2.5-year-old, and it's 100 proof, which is a great start. The proof alone is a great start. This is 90 proof, so maybe we do this one first. This is a 3-year plus blend. Then they sent over some Crooked Stave Cask Savant. I'm not great at reading handwritten scratch, but there are samples, so no harm on them. And then we have some straight bourbon whiskey, so that's at least 4 years old, which means there's bottled and bond, 4 years old, no need for an age statement, but they put it on there anyways. 100 proof. So that'll obviously be the last one we do, and then maybe the hickory smoked at the very last.
These look like little Listerine bottles.
Yeah, these are Boston
travel
Rounds.
size.
Yeah, Boston Rounds are the best things you can do. If you've, I remember early on in the whiskey scene, people always ask, where do you get the sample bottles? Amazon. They're called Boston Rounds, and they're fantastic. So, all right, grab a glass. And
I'm gonna grab mine. You can grab yours for safety.
All good.
Talk us through the. By the way, I did get tested again, negative.
Woo-woo.
No Rona.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Andrew Youngblood. The reason why I got tested is the episode I did with Mark Normand and Zahed. Zahed featured for Mark Normand at the Improv that weekend, and the host and opener was Andrew Youngblood. Andrew very publicly had just announced that he tested positive. He's got pneumonia, coughing up blood. It's really ravaging him. But so I went and got tested. Zahed did too. They were with each other all weekend. They opened. They hung out in the green room together. And if you've been to the Improv, it's a very small green room. None of them tested positive. So Rogan was here last week, took a photo with all the employees on stage, none of them wearing masks.
Yeah.
So I'm predicting that on Rogan's show he's going to announce soon that shit, I got the Rona. Oh, I like the nose on this.
It's a
very,
blend.
very floral.
Yeah.
Right?
What'd you say?
It's a blend.
Yep. This is it's a 2.5 year. This is a 3-year plus. So there's some older stuff. Extra barrel time, batch 55, 90 proof, Single Malt Whisky, 100% malted barley. Deer Hammer. I'll tell you right now, I will say this, the craft bourbon scene has struggled, but there are a lot of great single malt distilleries in the U.S.
Dude,
Westland does a great job.
there are several places in
Balcones.
Texas that they should stop making bourbon and only make single malts.
Or rums.
Yeah.
They're
crushing
I've
it.
said this 1,000 times. I think people, if it wasn't for Dan Garrison and his cowboy hat, I don't think this would have been a bourbon state. I think this would have been
The single malts that are getting put out are unbelievable.
Oh yeah. Oh, Widmar's.
Oh yeah,
Their single malt's the best thing from that
unreal.
they make.
Unreal. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Smoky.
Little spicy there, yeah. Wonder how big the barrels are. I'm gonna guess small barrels. There's a tannic spiciness there that I'm gonna assume is a smaller barrel.
All right, grips the back of you pretty good.
Yeah. I had some heat initially, but once my mouth got used to it, it was just more of that spice.
Yeah, that's at 90 proof. If it was cast strength, I think it would be amped up to 11.
Yeah, that'd be too much.
So the app's out. It's a lot like Untappd or Distilled. It's kind of covers the gamut of your needs as a whiskey collector. Cork'd, the app, you can find it on iTunes and of course Samsung, your Android platforms. You dialogue, library. It's like Facebook, but just spirits.
Yeah.
You can catalog your own inventory, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it's got the booze feed, so you can scroll. You can follow who you want to follow, and you can set your booze feed like off of tags like preferences, and you can set off friends, so you can only see, if you want to set it to where you only see friends, you can do that. It's got an inventory system, so both for liquor and wine. So that's where I really wanted to focus. And then one of the unique things I think that places like Houston with the big whiskey and bourbon scene is the private pick tracking system. So
I don't think anyone's done that up to that point, so that's great.
Yeah, so you can track off of store, or like for example like the Four Horsemen. You can see if they're logging things, you can see everything they've ever done that's been rated in the app, of course.
Sure. So is it already in there?
Yeah. There's there's obviously a lot of things are things that I've rated, but there's stuff from HBS in there. There's tons. There's some Bourbon Hounds. There's tons of stuff from Liquor Hut.
I will say this: the 2.5 year 100 proof I like better than the 3 year 90 proof. This is a bit more robust, not as astringent.
Is this the single malt?
This
Yeah.
is
Okay.
This is the slightly younger single malt, but higher proof.
It's pretty earthy on the nose.
And yeah, I agree. We should all be able to discuss everything. We're a society of people. We should be able to come together and discuss things.
That's much better. I like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, real nutty.
Comparatively, there's a bit more nuttiness there.
Mhm.
Not as much spice.
Yeah.
Wow, that's got a great taste.
Oh, what a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is going to be fun. I'm excited. Deer Hammer, thanks for sending me the samples.
Do you know any prices on any of these?
No, I will. I am sure they will see it and send me a message. I'll find out the pricing. I don't even know if they have Texas distribution. There's someone I haven't heard of up until Instagram.
Sure.
God bless Instagram. The one, well, I was about to say the one politically free zone, but that's not true. In the news, which I'll mention during the opening, Heaven Hill just announced that they were going to stop advertising on all social media platforms until they can reevaluate how their advertisements are aimed at all people. Meaning, one of Samara Rivers from the Black Bourbon Society, one of her goals was to change how the liquor industry advertises. Instead of being so, focused on one particular type of spirit aimed at one particular type of race, Heaven Hill has decided they're going to stop until they can reevaluate everything and then go from there. So it's big news coming from Heaven Hill. If Buffalo Trace did anything like that, it'd be pretty intense. Yeah, I'm very happy with this 2.5-year-old.
That's very good.
Speaking of which, I have received, they're in my truck downstairs, our Amrut single barrel samples. I want to make sure they are used in the right episode. That's really gonna. It's the only one for the state of Texas, so it'll be our own single barrel, and they're all Oloroso sherry. And I knew you guys were coming on, so I went and dug this out of the back of the bunker. This is the Portanova. They do fantastic single malts. The sherry, the port barrel, all of it is just tremendous. So getting a single barrel of that's going to be fantastic. If you drink scotch, right?
I drink everything.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, we've got the Progeny series. I don't know what this is. It doesn't say bourbon.
Mystery Spirit.
Yeah. Crooked Stave is all I see on there.
The Savant.
Yeah, I'm sure that says cask strength. Or something. No idea.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, dump glass here.
Thank you very much.
When he's done, I'm going to pour. Have you been trolling the YouTube comments of the Mark Norman episode?
No. What's...
Andrew Santino's fans are back at it.
Okay.
Giving me a hard time. Did you steal this from Andrew Santino? No, my show is over 2 years old, and Santino's about a year and a half. I hope that's the right order. But just to be sure, for anybody paying attention, I did not steal Andrew Santino's show, even down to the character Whiskey Pete, who's been around since 2016. This show was first, but Santino's show is better. I mean, he's a comedian. He's got, great big contacts in the world. This is more of a niche audience around spirits. Oh, the smell on this is ridiculous.
And Mark shared your episode on his channel, which was very awesome of you to do that.
I didn't feel like it was cannibalizing. I know you were worried about it.
No, it definitely cannibalizes, but and there's other ways of doing it. But I think what's really awesome though is he felt good enough about the content to share it, and I think that's like the highest praise you can get.
All right, so here's
Snort it.
Pour me a little bit here. This is their Crooked Stave. I'm assuming cask strength, but it's hard to read. 108 proof. Mark Norman sent me the most Mark Norman text ever, and I read it in his voice, and you read it in his voice, and he basically asked if he could throw it up on his channel because his technical guy thought it was a great interview. Yeah. So threw it up there, and I've been battling his fans ever since. I mean, for the most part, it's been positive. It's just a lot of people accusing me of stealing Andrew Santino's Whiskey Ginger podcast. Yeah. Red-haired guy, cartoon character. Santino has his own cartoon character. Very much feel like I stole the idea, even though this show had been around 8 months longer.
Well, that's the difference between that when you had Brian and
Brendan
on. You actually got a fair amount of praise because Brendan was the
Brendan was the punching bag on that one. Yeah, someone actually recently commented on that video, just saying imagine crashing this poor guy's podcast, all the downvotes that video got just because they hated Brendan. This tastes like soap. Respectfully.
Soap. Yeah.
And orange curacao.
Yeah, a little bit of...
I'm not a fan.
A little bit of orange glow up in there.
It definitely... The nose is fantastic, but it reminds me of that Parker's Heritage release that we talked about before.
Yeah.
Oof.
That's
I'm not okay with that.
Yeah.
Save this.
The Parker's one was pleasant. It had that going for it.
Let's see. Oof.
Yeah, that's too much.
Yeah.
That tastes like a cannabis tincture.
Cannabis tincture.
You ever had a cannabis tincture?
I've not.
No, I assume, is that like a CBD thing, or does it actually have THC in it?
Well, cannabis is THC, unless you have like Charlotte's Web or something like that. But that's what it tastes like.
Respectfully, that's a very odd profile. I'm not a fan. I need to clean the mouth here. All right, so next up we have a Deer Hammer did a straight bourbon whiskey. It's at least 4 years old, so no age statement required if it's at least 4 years old. Nose on it smells like bourbon. Colorado.
What do we have?
This is the 100 proof bourbon. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll let you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, Jack's kind of cut out that technical difficulty we had before.
What technical difficulty?
Ryan's liquor was what you were looking for, right?
Yes.
All right, so this is the bourbon side.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, but Mark Norman also got, we talked about it, got caught up in that Dahlia swarm.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. we were driving to lunch after our show, and he was like, we were talking about all these like old tweets from D'Elia that just made him look worse. Like all it takes is an accusation, true or not. But if you pull jokes that go along with that accusation, it makes it look like he's been telling on himself the whole time. And there was a lot of D'Elia tweets that did that. So on the way to lunch, he was searching his own Twitter to delete any kind of pedophile jokes. And then, of course, on Twitter, when they were giving him a hard time, people were, because you can actually see when people delete social media posts. They were like, he deleted 70 tweets yesterday. I wonder what they were about. Like, not knowing what was deleted makes it more suspicious. And I'm the one who was like, yeah, you should probably get rid of those. It was 100% my fault.
Well, it's better to have someone, I guess, just pontificate on what you deleted versus like having something
specifically
bite you in the ass
Agreed.
later on.
This is got kind of a mesquite barbecue note to it.
Very smoky.
I don't know what that is. I want to know how big their barrels are. Whoa. I'm wondering if they're small. Yeah, the nose on it smell like bourbon, but this does not taste like bourbon.
No, it's that soap comes back.
Soap.
Deer Hammer, you need to stick to that single malt. Like,
the single malt's
that single malt's great.
Yeah, you guys did a fantastic job on the single malt.
Like,
I hate to beat you up. I hope you know.
No, but with the single malt, you can experiment with like different casks and like you can do different finishes and there's so much potential with the single malt and they're so great.
Well, it's the last one here. I'm a little nervous. Hickory smoked. Anything with mesquite, hickory. I think all distilleries need to stop playing. Please stop playing with these woods, these funky woods. Because before I even smell it or taste it, I'm hesitant because hickory is such a. I don't like it when Balcones plays with it, and it's across all spirits. We did a custom gin with Avanac in Houston, and they wanted to add a touch of mesquite, and I was like, no,
please no,
please don't.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, before I even taste it.
Yeah,
I'm not a.
Oh, that's sour on the nose.
Sour is a good word.
Yeah,
dude, I'm telling you, this reminds me of Thanksgiving.
It's just not. It's not something that a human should do.
It tastes like, you know, that green bean casserole with bacon in it. That's what that reminds me of. Yeah. We're eating runoff, like juices from the green bean casserole.
On all the Scotch, like the super peaty, smoky. There is no other Scotch fanboys out there might like it, but that's not for me.
That is distinct.
That's not good.
What a good word.
That is not good.
That's the international word of not good.
Got another word.
How unique.
It's not distinct. It's criminal.
Yeah. Sorry, Deer Hammer.
I love the single malt. Single malt's great, and I love the 100 proof. I might even play around with a little bump in that proof because I didn't like the 90 proof as much, and it was slightly older. A bump in proof, especially that 2.5-year-old, is fantastic.
Just stick to that. I mean, American Distilleries, stick to the single malt.
Stick to what you're good at.
You can experiment, and it normally comes out pretty dang good. So that's my jam.
Let me change my perspective. I don't think they should necessarily stick to what's good, but if you play with something that's, experiment privately, and if it doesn't work, don't bottle it.
Right.
Lefroy, I had dinner or lunch with John Campbell from Lefroy, and when they were talking about their annual Cartridge release, he said, I'm going to be butchering this. I want to say we experimented. When they test out what they're going to do, they do a single cask, a dry cask, and a wet cask. So they did a Manzanilla cask, and they filled it full of Lefroy, and it was a dry Manzanilla cask and a wet Manzanilla cask, and both of them tasted like hot garbage alligator crotch. Like, it was just so bad. Put that on a shirt.
There we go.
That they chose not to release it. It's unfortunate, but that you wasted that money. But that's R&D, right?
Absolutely.
You write that off.
Yeah.
Yeah. The hickory smoked has got to go. The bourbon. I'd be interested to see what kind of barrels they're using.
The first one wasn't bad. It was spicy. Like, I mean, it was a little very tannic. I don't think it would have been bad in a cocktail. Like I think the first one would have been terrible. The second one was definitely the best, but the last three just abandoned.
The hickory smoked has a substantial aftertaste to it. Like I didn't have that for like it's been about a good 60 seconds now. I can still
Taste it in
very
your mouth.
much taste that, and not just like taste in the back, like in my
sinus
nasal
cavity.
It's like you're sitting at a
Yeah.
campfire.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm drinking this.
Yeah.
We mentioned this off air, but we're releasing a private label for this show. That's 15-year-old Heaven Hill Juice. In
We can do that one
conjunction
again.
with Bourbon Real Talk.
Yeah.
Bourbon Real Talk's another YouTube channel by Randall Sullivan.
Is this a Listerine bottle?
Yeah, those were the sample bottles.
That is 2 references to Listerine bottles in this episode for those keeping count.
The hickory smoked bottle has tainted this, and now I'm getting licorice in this Heaven Hill classic. Great example of 15-year-old Heaven Hill juice.
Yeah, there's a little bit of smoke in there, but no,
we're gonna blow Doc Swenson's and any other 15-year-old Heaven Hill juice out of the water.
That's so good.
Willett released a 15-year-old Heaven Hill recently for $750 a bottle, sold out same day. Doc Swenson's does a $130 bottle. This should be $90.
nice.
Because we're not making any money on it. It's a complete at-cost venture, and it's just so good. This is classic Kentucky bourbon.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, like real fruity.
Oh, that's fantastic. I also brought a little of my 2 favorite things from Amrut or from Glass Rev Spirits. Glass Rev Imports.
Yeah, I love that floral end there. Like that's just
It's really
it's delightful. Yeah.
Glass Revolution imports Amrut, and they also import Blackadder, and they do I don't know if you can see that. Oh yeah, yeah, you can see that. Those beautiful chunks. That's unfiltered, smoky peated Scotch. So I thought we could finish the episode with a pour of Amrut Porto Nova and some young. I'm willing to bet Ardbeg. That's unfiltered. You like peat or no?
I'm not a huge smoke fan on Scotch, but if it's balanced well, I don't mind it.
I'm gonna soak up this bourbon though.
Yeah,
Before
Absolutely.
That is
What the
really
hell
good.
was this episode about?
Yeah.
This episode.
Well,
It's all over the place.
we'd have to rewatch it. Yeah, we basically shoot the shit and we have a few drinks and talk.
Absolutely.
Talk about
I love it.
everything.
Yeah.
Right. So what was the episode you did? You talked a little bit off air. It was technically off air. The Rob
hope.
Clark.
Yeah. We so what we've been doing is through his Food, Wine, and Whiskey in Your Own Backyard podcast. We've been doing. So he's been setting up like Zoom calls with wineries, and so they'll come on. And one of the cool things we're doing is we're setting up where if you're on the Zoom call, we're offering like discount orders and then like membership, like the wine members discounts on that. So it's really tapping into something kind of unique. And and unfortunately, like I had to cancel my trip this year to Italy, the wine buying trip. Yeah, I mean, not that Italy was a hot zone or anything for COVID, but so we had to.
You know what's crazy is, relatively speaking, now they weren't.
I know
they were. At first.
They were like the first one. So we had to cancel that. Unfortunately, several HBS
Trump
members.
was like, "Hold my mask."
Yeah,
I got this.
So
we are the hot zone, and good for us for social distancing.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, man, we're doing a lot of that kind of stuff. But we're looking to do some more trips, like me and Rob. We're doing a lot of events, like
real smart guy.
Oh yeah.
He watched the episode you did, and we talked a little bit about it. Food, wine, is it Food, Wine, and Whiskey in Your Own Backyard?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then if you're in Houston, I know that he help runs his own group called that.
Yeah.
So he's got his own podcast group and everything. So check it out on iTunes. And are you still doing Bad Wine Reviews?
Yeah. So I haven't done as many videos lately, but
you've had your plate full with his app.
The app
aren't cheap.
and yeah. So but the group has grown quite a bit. We're doing a big giveaway for the app launch, so that should be fun and hopefully we'll piss people off. But
he pissed a few people off from a recent giveaway.
Oh yeah. So
he jokingly,
I thought it was hysterical.
Offered a gift basket for as a consolation prize for catching COVID. First person that has COVID, and you can prove it. Here's not, hey, go get it.
Right.
You know,
A guy legitimately said I should be arrested.
Really?
He wanted me arrested and put in jail
Is
for
it the
for
same
promoting. I don't know.
the guy that threatened to quit that day. He's like, because of this, I'm leaving.
I've had a lot of people threaten to quit lately for my antics. I made the Jesus background. Or what's going on in here? And he did. I had multiple people did not appreciate that. That guy, he was like, you should be thrown in jail for promoting a pandemic. I was like, I wasn't promoting the pandemic.
Hey, man,
I was
it's a
taking
joke.
advantage of the pandemic. There's a big difference. Yeah. No.
Oh man.
No, whatever, man. I love it.
Yeah, Rob.
See first segment. Like just go back to that.
Yeah, I wasn't like the first person to lick a doorknob. I was respectful.
Yeah, so I was going through rearranging things in the garage, and I found my last bottle of Porto Novo.
All right.
And I was promoting this long before they were a sponsor of the show. It is just heavy. I don't know why I did that. Apologies. Just a heavy, wet port barrel full of delicious fortified wine and Indian single malt. You chugged it. That's the one thing I'm teaching my daughters. Trying so hard to instill in them that shots are the worst thing in our culture. In the drinking culture, I think shots are the worst thing.
I would agree.
They do the most damage.
Yes.
They're not about enjoyment. They're
Yeah.
about getting effed up.
Yeah.
And so I'm adamantly against them. I refuse to do shots. And,
I agree.
and there's a lot of things I promote and do
Sure.
and probably shouldn't do. But shots are the absolute worst thing.
My wife's uncle, I brought over some Hibiki 21 and poured him and my brother-in-law a shot of each, and me and my brother-in-law sipping on it. He just threw it back. Just threw it back, and he made this awful, oh yeah, noise. It was the worst. I died.
There's this that is ingrained in what we like. You have to think what in our culture does the lowest common denominator, not the dumbest person, but what is that, the person who doesn't drink, doesn't buy,
Right.
doesn't collect, what's the average consumer think that they're supposed to do?
Right.
Shots are the most prolific part of
Correct.
our drinking culture, and probably arguably the most dangerous. I think there should be campaigns against it. Not that, I'm not saying it should be outlawed. I'm not saying you can't do it if you don't want to. If you want to do it, do it. Especially if you're a mom and you've got a bunch of little kids driving you nuts and you want to have a quick shot, go ahead. No problem. But when it comes to raising responsible drinkers, especially how many bottles do you have at your house right now?
A lot.
Yeah. Would you guess more than 100?
Yeah.
Would you guess more than 300?
In between.
Yeah. Depending on where we are with the social,
Sure.
like right before the social, we push 1,200 bottles at the house.
Yeah.
Wow.
The average amount of bottles, I'd say we probably sit closer to 500 to 600 bottles throughout the entire year.
Yeah.
And it's because it's such a big part of our life. I'd rather you taste 12 different samples, right? We had 5 samples plus 3 other things. Like I'd
Yeah.
rather you have 8 of those versus 3 shots and some shot called Sex on the Beach with a fuzzy butthole.
But,
Right.
But here's the pushback to that is that if I can't have a Chris Hart telling me about each of the samples that I'm having, it's not nearly as enjoyable. This kind of thing is enjoyable because of the knowledge that goes with it. And that's always, I think, the case with sampling things, right? Is that the knowledge enhances the experience.
Well, that's where you have to change the zeitgeist. You have to change the culture, right? You think about the effect Joe Rogan has had on our entire culture in the age range it's affected. I pointed it out with Brian Callen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have been famous for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
You started in 1995. It's 2020. You affected me as a child. I am now a 32-year-old man with a wife and 4 kids. I have been following you this entire time. I know who you are. I appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
Oprah had mentioned at one point that she was going to stop eating meat, and the entire meat industry gathered together to sue her
Right.
because it affected their bottom line.
Yeah.
Like that kind of impact.
Right.
So if there was more, like Rogan would never do the show. But if he did do this show and actually had a whiskey expert on his show, the effect that it would have on people's approach to drinking would be insane. It's kind of like the Houston Bourbon Society. When we early on, when the Hounds first started, we had several people say, another group in Houston called the Bourbon Hounds of Houston. We had a couple members from that group say, we just found HBS. It's a little intimidating, the information, the experience. I said, well, don't feel that way. We're just, anyone can join, just answer a few questions. And now HBS is the spectrum of green drinker who just found Willet pot still, and the old dog who's a bit of a, censor this, bit of a cunt, right? Just the judgy expert, the Wades of the world. So now, and I would even say nowadays, I would say the vast majority of HBS is still pretty green. But if someone like Rogan came in and actually had a whiskey expert to talk about whiskey, that one episode would make everyone want to get in this hobby. You think Blanton's is allocated now. Like, it would change things. So my whole point is, if you change the zeitgeist around shots, then it wouldn't come off that way.
Do you think the bow hunting culture has grown because of Joe Rogan's podcast?
I would say that the hunting culture has. The hunting culture. Do you know that he did an episode recently during this corona outbreak with Dr. Rhonda Patrick, and they talked about how all of the studies with corona are showing that the reason why black people are getting it is because black people are vitamin D deficient.
Right, exactly.
And within 3 days, in the entire country, Amazon was sold out of vitamin D supplements.
Wow.
Because of that one episode, everyone was like, I'm buying a bunch of vitamin D to fight off coronavirus.
As opposed to just going out and getting in the sun.
Sure. Well, it's harder. It's harder. Even those who live in the Caribbean and spend a lot of outdoor time, in the sun, they don't absorb it as well.
Sure. Because the melanin. Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard when there's Sahara dust in the air.
Sure. I mean, I've gotten my vitamin D dose just from these lights.
Yeah, for sure.
My translucent skin. All right, so you had the Porto Nova. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you like it? Don't like it?
I like it.
Yeah. Be honest. I don't care if they're sponsors.
No, I don't.
I'm a huge fan.
I don't have no reason to lie.
This is really good.
I like
this is their peated beast. Oh God, look at all those beautiful chunks.
One more time, I'm gonna go
just check.
Wake up my computer.
Yep.
Of our other mishap.
What if that's when you turned it off? Yeah, there's gonna be chunks in the bottom of your glass.
That's
just
fine.
go
I don't give a shit.
I don't know what that is, but I'm dumping it.
I think that's Heaven Hill.
Oh, in that glass?
Yeah, pretty sure.
I just tried to cork my glass. Yeah, so this is young, peated whiskey. They're not saying what it is, like where it's from, what distillery. But it's unfiltered and it's at cask strength. And this, I think, runs about $90 at 120 proof, 119 and change. This right here is Campfire in a glass.
It's not as smoky as some of our previous things sitting at the
peated.
front of the table.
Hold on, I think I might be wrong.
It
First
doesn't
fill bourbon cask.
It doesn't smell like smoke to me.
No. There's no peat in that. Wow. I opened it a year ago. I was going off memory. It's ex-bourbon.
It's creamy.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
That is fantastic.
That's really good.
I was wrong. Glass Revolution. God bless him. Dude, this whole time I thought it was Young Ardbeg. You know what it is? A lot of the Raw Cask series does some peated scotch.
Yeah, it tastes...
That's fantastic.
It tastes like a marshmallow.
That's super young single malt scotch.
Yeah, it's really good. I like that. That's really good.
We've run out of time. Thank you so much for bearing with me. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
Cork'd, the app on iTunes and or on the Apple Store and
Play Store.
As Google Play Store. Definitely check it out. Thanks so much for coming in, man.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Anytime. Cheers.
Ding, 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 ding. Coronavirus. Yay. All right.
Balcones' first ever year-round bourbon was an inspiration. It all had to work together. A blend of carefully selected ingredients, Texas-sized pot stills, and creative people determined to find the absolute best way to usher a new whiskey along. When you discover how it pairs with a meaningful moment, suddenly the feeling of drinking great whiskey becomes a whole lot more.